I think some of this sometimes comes from a good place of wanting to see wanting to see your juniors. I'm gonna caveat it. Trust me, I'm getting there.
I'm like,
But
a lot
wanting
of
to
times
see
it'd be
people
shitty.
be better. However, I think the method is very
I
outdated.
want you to breathe. I want you to breathe. I want you to breathe.
Hello, friends. We're back. We're Black and Curious. I'm Kandrin.
Hey, it's Dehjai. How y'all doing?
And if you've never been here before, we do a cross section of pop culture in real life. And today we are talking about community. We're continuing our conversation really about community, and we're talking about community at work. And in a specific way, this may be an unpopular opinion. This may get me in trouble. But I'm gonna do it anyway. So
All right, Giselle.
the other day, girl, please. Uh the other day I was scrolling through Twitter and oh my gosh. I was scrolling through Twitter and I found a conversation about Black women in leadership. And we kind of touched on this a little bit when we talked about Harlem last season and a little bit this season too about Whoopi Goldberg's character and how terrible she was to Camille at times. So,
Black people in leadership sometimes really be the worst. Ah,
okay, so that's where I'm going. This girl says having Black woman, or her name is Motor City Vixen. Having a Black woman as a team lead has been a horrible experience for me in corporate America. Three out of three in horrible experiences thus far. I wonder why that is. And somebody responded. I did not include the response, which is very annoying to me. But it's essentially um the woman who responded and how I actually got onto my timeline was just saying that a lot of times people perceive Black women to be mean and it's just really holding them accountable. And so I wanted to have a bigger conversation about like how are you experiencing or have you experienced like Black people in leadership and how we can do better with this, because this is a common complaint and there was a lot. I will include the tweet, like the replies and the quote tweets were kind of like, yeah, me too, yeah, me too, and I want us to do better. I want us to be better. I have experiences and
I
I'd like to
don't.
talk about
So
it.
I'll be real black and white. Y'all know I'm transparent on this joint. So like I don't have no any experience with Black senior level management that wasn't fraught with some sort of contention. And so that the why I'm furrowing the brows right now is that thing about like, oh, they perceive Black women to be mean and they're it's because they're just being held accountable. Like I've never had issues with being held accountable. What I had issues with under the Shepherd for the Devil that I worked for in retail was that everything that I did, that if it wasn't done in the way that she wanted it done, it was an issue. And like for me, it's a thing of like two things can be done, or one thing can be done two different ways. It doesn't always have to be done the way
Yeah,
that you perceive it that it needs to be done. And like that
yeah.
type of stuff, it's not a you holding people accountable, it's you just picking on people because you don't like them or because you want things to be done the way that you want it done, or whatever the case may be. Like you want to be seen a
I've
certain
actually
way.
had that. I've actually had that experience with women. Period. Um, I've had one or two good women leaders. Um, but I've had that experience with women in general, where I've struggled because I'm very much like you. Like I am a ends. I want to know what the end goal is, and how I get there is none of your business. Did I meet
Hello,
all of the expectations? Yes. Then let's move on. And
as long
honestly,
as I get it
some of
done.
that might be how a little bit how we're raised, because I know like my mom is very precise and she likes things done her way.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't. And that was a lot of our issues at home was like, I just wasn't going to. And we bumped heads a lot because of that. But something else that I experienced a lot, even in growing up, I can remember having a teacher in sixth grade and was kind of like, yeah, I was on you because I believed in your potential and I think you can be better. And I'm just like, at that time, I didn't really have the language for that. But I had actually, um, when I worked for the government for a very short time, like I had what do you call it? I wasn't an intern. I guess it was sort of an internship or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but I had a black boss there too, and she basically said the same thing, kind of like at the end of the internship, she was kind of like, I know you think I was hard on you, but it was because I believe in your potential and I believe you're ready to go out and practice. And I just want to offer as a word of help for any black women in leadership. Everybody don't respond to that.
No,
Everybody don't respond to that.
most
And
people
it's
don't
not
respond to that.
most people don't respond to that. It's not helpful. And it's like some people, in the comments were kind of like, yeah, because you think everybody's supposed to be your homegirl. And it's like, it's really not that. I just want everybody to treat me the same way you're treating other people. If you are okay with their work product being, I would say subpar, but if you're okay with them getting to the end however they got to the end, that's fine. And if you are offering me additional like mentorship or additional like, hey, I want you to pay attention to this, give it in a way that's constructive feedback that I can receive. Don't just ride my ass for
Yeah,
an entire 9 months and then at the end be like, yeah, it's because I believe in you. That doesn't
like,
work
but
for people. That
that's
does
not
not
what I
That's not
feel.
good for people.
No,
That's
not at
not what I
all.
feel. I don't like you is what I don't is what I feel. And the other lawyers in the office who I was writing briefs for and like actually doing work for were very much like, oh, here's where you can improve. Oh, this is where, oh, you guys are so
Exactly.
helpful. You know, do this discrete issue, do this for me, blah, blah, blah. Here, you can handle those things. You know what I'm saying? And like, there's
Hmm.
a way to train people and to get results out of people that don't include just riding their ass and being an
And
asshole.
berating them.
And
Yeah,
honestly, and something that I saw in the comments quite a bit was like, well, being mean is not being a good boss. And I
it's
would
not.
offer that as well.
A lot of
Like
time it's giving
being perceived, and
micromanagement.
yes, and to be clear, like we know perception, we are perceived as harsher, and there is a bit of like you kind of have to parse your words, but sometimes y'all just being assholes, and we gotta do
Hmm.
better. We
Because
gotta do
like,
better.
let's talk about the management that comes in and you are a stellar employee and all of the senior level people around that manager and including your own team all see you as this stellar employee and they flock to you for
Yeah,
guidance and like, oh, how did you do X, Y, and Z? And then that relationship between you and your direct manager becomes contentious because she's seeing that you're going to surpass her. Like that type of shit happens.
yeah. It happens. And this, and my, in another role, my manager was not a black woman, but she was a woman. And then my supervisor after her was just like, yeah, people are calling all the time, like asking for your work because they know you can handle it. Like once a week, I'm fielding a call because they want to put something else on your plate. And those are not conversations that I had with a previous manager. She just kind of made me feel like I was what did she will say, defensive and kind of like combative with her. And it was just like, no, because you're trying to like make me do things a certain way. And that, I will say, I think this is also a little bit of a generational divide. Um and some part of it could be a bit of gatekeeping, like there could only be one. So I think that does come into the conversation a little bit as well. As I'm not ready to move on, and so I have to keep you kind of back and down in that area or whatever. So it's a complicated conversation, and like I said, I don't say this without acknowledging that we are perceived as harsher, and it's very much all my life I had to fight. Like
Mm-hmm.
some of this is like I had to scrap and fight to get every single thing that I have. And like now I want you to have to scrap and fight to get everything you have. But I think some of the ways to improve it could just be realizing like you're now in a position of power and you're in a position to empower the people below you so that they don't have to fight quite as hard as you did. Like, especially in the workforce, we all know like we all had the conversation, sometimes you have to work twice as hard to get half as far or whatever. Like we know that intrinsically. We don't need somebody coming and beating us down every day as well. Like that's not necessary to drive the point home. Like living in the world as a black person, a black woman is enough. to drive the point home.
Okay. I just like that idea when people come in and they say shit like that where, oh, you're just not used to being held accountable. Like, that's not, no, man.
Mm-mm.
That don't fly for everybody. I
It
think like to the
doesn't.
point of like what you said before, like sometimes you just really out here being an asshole, girl.
Mhm.
And like that's
Mhm.
what it comes down to. Like your management style is not working for the people who are having issues receiving what you're trying to give them. So to then
Yeah,
turn around and say, like, I pushed you because I know that you can do X, Y, and Z. Well, that's great, but I didn't ask you to do that.
exactly. And more importantly, I didn't receive it that way. So you just made my life, you've made my work here unpleasant, which is not going to help me to be a better lawyer or a better this or a better that or a better investigator or what have you. Like, you making my life a living hell is not going to make that better for me. Like,
I'm
you know what
trying.
I'm saying? Again, I think there's, and we always talk about this, like, there's just value in being in communicating to people what is going on. Like, hey, I see this shortcoming in you and I want to help you work on it. Yes, it's going to seem like maybe do you want help improving it? Because everybody don't want help improving it. Would you like help to improve on this area? Hey, okay, let's work on this area. And it might feel like I'm going to ride you, but I want you to be better. Like, I think that is a
Mhm,
valid conversation on the front end, as
mhm.
opposed to waiting, like in my case, the entire I worked for like a summer and a school year, waiting 9 months until I'm graduating for you to tell me, like, oh, yeah, I rode you because I thought you could be better.
But like that's
That's
dumb.
not
My thing is
helpful
you need
because
to
I
set
just
up,
don't like
you
you.
need to, as a manager, you need to establish how you're going to manage your employees by individuals. Set up that dynamic with you and your employees so that they understand
Yeah.
what the expectation is and how you're going to move forward with them. And then you continuously check in to build on this plan that you already set forward, as opposed to your end, you're going to come in at the back end and tell them, oh, well, I did X, Y, and Z because I knew that you could be great. But like the
Yeah.
whole time I'm
And
miserable.
also, like, yes, exactly. And also, she was the my direct supervisor. She wasn't even my direct supervisor. I worked with the other attorneys on a day-to-day basis. She was like the big boss. So it's like, well, what are you being mean to me for? You're not even experiencing my work on a day-to-day basis, really. Like, I may work on a little discrete issue here or there for you, but the most of the work that I'm doing is with the I forget what they call it, attorney advisors here. Like, what you brought me for? Like,
Yeah.
you
Like,
know?
get out of here. Why you
So I mean,
here?
I think I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I think some of this sometimes comes from a good place of wanting to see wanting to see your juniors. I'm gonna caveat it. Trust me, I'm getting there.
I'm like,
But
a lot
wanting
of
to
times
see
it'd be
people
shitty.
be better. However, I think the method is very outdated. And like I said, I experienced this at least twice in my life, from Black women specifically, but also from women of other races as well. And it's troubling. It's troubling.
I've definitely received it from Black women in management. And then I I have not received it at this point, but I smell it off of this
Mhm.
a Black man
Mm,
recently. And I was like,
yeah.
I don't know if that was shade or if you're like genuinely
Yeah.
trying to ask. And if I gotta do all of that, I gotta do these mental
Yeah.
gymnastics to figure out where you coming from. I don't want to be involved. No, thank you.
Yeah. I just think there are better methods. And this is another sort of aside, but I think we have to be mindful of people's cultures as well, especially when you're having cross-cultural conversations, and not just their culture like race. I'm talking about like their upbringing and different things. Like, you have to be very careful about certain words that you use. Like, again, my one of my managers used to call me defensive all the time, which
Girl.
I was just like, oh, that's giving very buzzy
Mm-hmm.
buzz. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to
Mm-hmm.
be careful how you communicate and how things are received, because it may be a cultural difference in how messaging is received too. So that's why I think, like, even in the DEI, I feel like we have to go deeper than just making sure that there is a Black person in the room, and to make sure that the nuances are being
The nuances
addressed
of
as
Black
well.
and Asian and Indian and Indigenous, and all of
Right.
that needs to be represented. It can't just be, oh well, we got like Barbara and she's of the African American community, and then we got Sue who's of the Asian community. Like, that's not how that shit works.
And
And
that
that's what's happening.
it translates down to how, even like, I mean, this is not talking about the workplace, but this is a prime example of how, like, police going into certain communities is like, yeah, there's a lack of trust. That's why they don't want to talk to you. That's why people run, because, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not because they're guilty. It's because we don't trust you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's that kind of vibe to
Mm-hmm.
me. And so, like, and I think we had this conversation before, talking about work, like getting to know your employees and kind of like where they come from, and getting to like really understand their work experience, so that you can like lead in a way that's not just a one size fits all leadership style, that you can actually understand them and
Mm-hmm.
lead them how they need to be led. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're not, it's ineffective to think that you can lead everyone the same way.
Yeah. And I think, to your point, I've only had one boss who was able to do that, and he was burnt out by the end of it, which I hated to see him be in that position, but I understood it. This shit is not easy.
I have
Shout out
one.
to you,
I
Tommy.
have one now. Yeah, I have one now. Shouts out to my current boss. Um, and he is excellent, but he is burning out, and it's like
Mhm.
all of our whole entire team is like, please don't go, please don't go,
Like, how can
no,
we help
please
you?
God,
Shit. I used
don't
to get it
send
all
us
the
back
time.
there.
Like, how can I help you do X, Y, and Z? Like, am I a part of the problem?
Yeah,
Let me figure out my thing, and then you don't have to worry about me. Like, I would do that a lot. You know what I mean? So, like,
yeah,
when you get a really good manager, it's hard to let go of them, because
yeah,
the next person that comes in tends to be fucking shitty.
yeah.
Sorry.
And that's the other thing, is like, a lot of times people, actually my current boss said this, like, a lot of times good workers are promoted to leaders and they're bad managers. Like,
Mhm.
the people have got to get, and so I think maybe some of this is that too, is like, you worked your ass off, and that's why you were promoted to this management position, but you don't
But
know
you
how
ain't
to manage
prepared.
people other than to micromanage. And like, a lot of people who don't know how to manage end up micromanaging, because they don't know, all they know is the work. And
Mhm.
that was my experience even with a previous manager, is like, she knows the work, so she knows how to pick the work apart, but you're not teaching me, or you're not helping me to advance in my career or to grow in my skill sets, or when I'm
Mhm.
asking you for stretch assignments or whatever, like, you don't know that part of the work. You just know how to be a hard worker. So
Mhm.
it's like, I think a lot of this is just like poor training, but also just like, we've got to work collectively on our style of management, so that we can stop getting this bad rap for being bad managers. That's my desire for us
Girl,
as a people.
talk about it. I feel like, and my hope too is like, because we can't put ourselves in the young professionals category anymore.
Mm-mm.
My hope too
Ain't.
is that those of us who are in senior level management have taken all of the shit of the people that we had before us and have
Mm-hmm.
reworked it so that it's better for like Gen Z and those who come after us. And I want to say that a
Yeah.
lot of when I was, deep diving in the work TikTok, a lot of millennials and some Gen Xers were talking about how millennial managers are so less like abrasive. They're just kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, this is what the work is, this is what the expectation is, how you get it done is how you get it done, but this is when it needs to be due. Like, anything else in there in between, however I need to support you, please let me know how and when and where I can support you, which is beneficial.
Yeah.
I don't know why the people before
Also, I want to point
didn't
out,
get that.
I want to give an example, because it just came to my mind of the opposite of this, and this is what I think we should be doing. And I think she is a millennial. Corporate Barbie. Shouts out to Corporate Barbie on Twitter. I think that's her name still. I think it might. I think she changed it. She used to be Corporate Barbie, but she was talking about, and this is why she did go into leadership. She was like, I don't want to be nobody's manager, but I went into leadership so that I could help bring people up. I could help hire more people who deserve it, who aren't going to get their foot in the door unless there's somebody like me in a leadership position. And she was talking about how she hired a young woman or promoted a young woman that was working under her, and I think she was maybe making 70,000 or something, and she gave her the bump to 100,000 or like 110 or something like that. And HR was kind of like, you're giving her a $30,000 raise, and she was like, yes, so what?
We got it.
And it's like, it's better than having to hire somebody outside and starting completely over. But she was just like, yeah, yes, I do. She deserves it. She's a hard worker. And like, that's the type of stuff that we should be working on, and taking these positions of power in situations of management, especially if you're working in HR or you're hiring people, like, make that shit work, make that shit.
Okay, the death applause.
Yeah,
Shout out to my friends that taught me that.
So also shout out to, I remember my mom used to work in HR. She said the same thing. She's like, I'm sitting on a panel interview, if all things are created equal, all the candidates are qualified, I'm putting my vote in for the Black person. Because why not? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why you have to be in those, you have to have people in those places that can elevate, and without doing all of this additional stuff. And that's why I was saying, and I think you were getting at, like, I think it's a generational thing too, because millennials are very much like, girl, I don't have time to chase down behind you. Get the work done, and I'm here for you.
I don't want to. Like, once I get to the point where I have like full-time admin and contracted like staff to do certain, like fractional work, girl, I hired you to do this job. You got it. Now, if you need help, let me know, I'll be here to help you out. But like, I don't want to micromanage you. Like, no, I want everybody to win. That's the whole reason why I created this new piece of my business, so that I can pull people along. Because this idea that you got to go do a 9 to 5 in somebody's office it's not it.
Yeah. And I think that's, just bringing it back to our topic, like, that's what it is to create community in your workspaces and your networks and stuff, is to build relationships with people and not treat them like crap just because they're under you or because you want things done a certain way. Like, to just really value what everybody is bringing to the table. So I think that's super important.
Very important. I think that's the thing that's missing, is that there's no value for the nuances that come with individuals.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So anyways, drop down in the comments. Let us know
what your story was, child.
With Black managers.
How was your Black senior leadership? Okay. You know what? Tell us. Also, like, because a lot of times we were complaining about senior Black women in senior management, but what has the experience been with you all with Black men in senior leadership? Because I ain't never had
because I don't think I've ever had a Black male boss.
Me either. That's literally what I was about to say. I ain't never had a Black male boss. That's interesting, though, that both of us, totally different industries, neither of us have ever experienced that. So, yeah. Drop down in the comments, and of course, let us know your thoughts. Like, comment, and subscribe, and then we will see you in the next conversation, friends. Bye.
Bye.